The auction hall glittered with chandeliers, casting golden light over polished marble floors, and the air buzzed with the low murmur of wealthy guests, reporters, and cameras capturing every angle. Adam, a billionaire known for his daring bets and extravagant lifestyle, stood at the center of the room, surrounded by colleagues who whispered admiringly about his latest ventures. He was tall, sharply dressed, and carried an air of arrogance that made many feel both impressed and uneasy. Tonight, however, he was not here for art, jewelry, or rare artifacts. He had come for entertainment, to prove, once again, that he could win any bet and control every situation around him. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the guests, the bright lights, and the faint scent of expensive perfume. And then he saw her. Sarah. A single mother, sitting quietly at the edge of the hall, her posture straight but humble, her gaze calm and steady despite the opulence surrounding her. She wore a simple dress, nothing flashy, yet something about her presence made Adam pause, something that caught his attention in a way no object or auction item ever had. The murmurs in the room faded slightly in his perception, his focus sharpening entirely on her. He leaned toward his friend, smirking with that self-assured smile he wore so often, and whispered, "I bet I could win anything tonight, and I think I just found my next challenge." His friend laughed softly, assuming Adam was joking, thinking he meant a rare painting or a luxury car. Adam, however, had a different plan. He rose from his seat and walked toward the auctioneer's podium, his confident steps echoing lightly in the grand hall. The cameras immediately turned, sensing the movement of someone significant, and whispers spread across the room. Adam raised his hand, signaling his intent to bid, and the auctioneer paused, scanning the crowd for the usual wealthy participants. "Ladies and gentlemen," Adam's voice rang clearly, confident and commanding, "tonight, I make a very special bid." A few heads turned, curious but unsure what he meant. He paused, letting the attention gather fully on him, and then, with a charming yet audacious smile, he said, "I bid on Sarah." Silence. The kind of stunned, almost disbelief silence that made the chatter stop mid-word. Eyes widened, jaws dropped, and a few people laughed nervously, unsure if they had heard correctly. The auctioneer blinked, slightly taken aback, and stammered, You mean yes," Adam interrupted smoothly, "Sarah, the lady at the edge of the room. I bid for her tonight." Murmurs grew louder, the crowd buzzing with shock, gossip, and a hint of scandal. Sarah's head tilted slightly, her calm eyes meeting his for a brief moment. She smiled, not a nervous or fearful smile, but one of quiet confidence, almost as if she had been expecting this and was not afraid in the least. The crowd leaned forward, some whispering, some laughing in disbelief, and some murmuring to the reporters about how shocking this was. Cameras focused, flashes flickered, and every eye in the room seemed fixed on Sarah and Adam. Yet, Sarah did not flinch. Her hand rested on her lap, her expression serene. She understood what had happened immediately. She knew about his reputation for bold bets and outrageous stunts. And though she had never imagined being the target of such a wager, she was not afraid. Adam, seeing her calm demeanor, felt a stir of curiosity mixed with his usual thrill of winning. There was something different about her, something that hinted she was not like the others who would have gasped, blushed, or fled. Adam could feel the tension in the room rise with each heartbeat, the suspense palpable. People leaned on their chairs, murmuring questions to each other. Will she accept? Why does she look so composed? Is this some trick? Even some of Adam's closest friends exchanged nervous glances, realizing that he might have gone too far this time. But Adam's confidence never wavered. In fact, it sharpened. He loved the challenge, the risk, the unknown. There was a spark in the game now that no money or object could provide. Sarah, meanwhile, kept her smile, small and knowing, hinting at a secret she held, something Adam could not yet see or understand. The audience felt the tension, holding their breath, waiting for her reaction. Would she reject him in front of everyone? Would she embarrass him? Or would she play along in a way that no one expected? Her calmness made the suspense even greater. Adam's eyes searched hers, trying to read her mind, to gauge the possibility of victory. He had faced many opponents, many risks, many bets, but this was different. This was personal. And in that moment, every person in the auction hall, every reporter, every wealthy guest, and every staff member felt that something extraordinary was about to unfold. The chandeliers sparkled overhead, the cameras flashed, and Adam felt that thrill he always craved, the moment when everything was uncertain, when the next few seconds could change everything. Sarah finally spoke softly, her voice calm yet clear, enough for those nearby to hear. "If this is a bet, then I will accept, but only on my terms." Gasps echoed through the hall. The spectators realized that this was no ordinary acceptance. There was power, dignity, and mystery in her words. Adam's curiosity deepened. He had expected fear, hesitation, or a polite refusal. Instead, he found composure and subtle confidence. His pulse quickened, the thrill of the gamble now mixed with fascination for the woman before him. The crowd leaned closer, sensing the drama, the suspense, and the unfolding story. Everyone in the room wondered, what secret does she hold that makes her so fearless? How will this audacious bet play out? And above all, could Adam, the billionaire used to winning every challenge, truly anticipate what was coming next? The answer was unknown, and that unknown, that suspense, was exactly what made the night unforgettable. After the shock of the auction, the room slowly returned to its usual buzz, but all eyes still lingered on Sarah and Adam. The whispers never stopped, reporters hurried to their cameras, capturing every movement, while guests exchanged curious glances and quiet conversations about what had just happened. Adam, however, remained focused entirely on her, a small smile tugging at his lips, a mix of arrogance and genuine curiosity in his eyes. He approached Sarah with confident steps, as if walking into uncharted territory where every move mattered. "So," he said, his voice smooth and measured, "it seems you are agreeing to my little bet. I am impressed." Sarah looked up at him calmly, her eyes steady and unshakable. "I am not agreeing to be a prize," she said softly but firmly. "I am agreeing on my own terms." Her voice carried dignity and quiet authority, and it surprised Adam more than he expected. For the first time, someone was not intimidated by his wealth, his status, or his reputation. He chuckled lightly, intrigued. "Your terms?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. She nodded, and though she spoke politely, her words held weight. "I will participate, but I decide the pace and the conditions. I will not be treated like an object or a wager." Adam felt a spark of respect mixed with thrill. She was not ordinary, and the challenge of understanding her fully was already more exciting than any auction he had attended in years. The crowd watched their interaction, captivated. Some gasped quietly, sensing the subtle tension between dominance and composure, while others leaned in, whispering, trying to guess what she might have planned. The auction staff, a little uncomfortable, cleared the stage as Adam gestured for her to follow him. Cameras followed every step, the flashlights creating halos around them, giving the moment an almost cinematic quality. As they left the auction hall, the murmurs of curiosity and gossip followed them like a shadow. Outside, the night air was cooler, the city lights sparkling in contrast to the tension still lingering between them. Adam gestured toward his waiting car, a sleek black vehicle that gleamed under the streetlights. "Shall we go?" he asked, his tone casual but carrying an edge of command. Sarah hesitated briefly, her mind processing the whirlwind of events, the public humiliation, and the unexpected spotlight. Yet, she felt no fear, only a quiet determination. "Yes," she said softly, climbing into the car with grace, as though stepping into a challenge she had anticipated all along. The drive to Adam's mansion was quiet but filled with unspoken questions. Adam stole glances at her from time to time, curious about her thoughts, her confidence, and the small smile she wore as if she already knew more than he did. Sarah's calmness unnerved him in a way he had never experienced. The mansion appeared on the horizon, a gleaming palace of glass, steel, and opulent gardens. Adam parked the car and led her inside. The interior was a display of wealth beyond imagination, marble floors, grand staircases, priceless art, but Sarah did not seem impressed or overwhelmed. She walked through the halls with careful steps, her eyes observing, noticing details that even Adam had not paid attention to. "You are not easily impressed," Adam remarked, a hint of admiration in his voice. Sarah turned to him slightly, her smile subtle but knowing. "I notice more than most people," she replied quietly. The house grew silent as they reached the private lounge, where soft lighting created an intimate, almost tense atmosphere. Adam motioned for her to sit, and she complied gracefully, maintaining her composure. For the first time, Adam felt that the game he thought he was playing had changed entirely. This was no longer just a bet, this was a puzzle, a challenge, a mystery that he could not solve with wealth or charm alone. The suspense hung in the air, thick and electric. Sarah looked around, taking in the grandeur without a hint of awe, her attention eventually returning to Adam. "You must know," she said, her voice calm, "I am not easily fooled. I understand bets, wagers, and games, but I play by my own rules." Adam's smirk softened into genuine curiosity. "You are full of surprises," he said. Sarah's eyes sparkled faintly in the soft light, and Adam felt that there was more beneath the surface than he could guess. The cameras, the public attention, and the auction were gone for the moment, but the tension and suspense between them remained, stronger than before. Adam leaned back, studying her, wondering what she would do next, how she would react to his world of luxury, power, and risk. Sarah, on her part, had already begun forming her own plan, how to maintain dignity, how to navigate this new reality, and perhaps, how to teach this arrogant billionaire that strength, character, and courage were more valuable than money or audacity. The night stretched on, filled with quiet words, subtle observations, and the promise of secrets yet to be revealed. Adam knew that this bet was no longer simple. It was the start of a journey that would challenge everything he thought he understood about control, power, and even his own heart. The suspense of what was coming next, the hidden truths, the unexpected reactions, and the lessons to be learned hung in the air like an unbroken thread, compelling anyone who heard the story to stay captivated, wondering what the next move would be, and what shocking revelations awaited both of them. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the towering windows of Adam's mansion, illuminating the vast rooms filled with art, expensive furniture, and the faint scent of fresh flowers. Sarah moved carefully through the halls, her eyes observing every detail as if she were studying a map of a world she had never entered before. Adam followed her, intrigued by her calm and precise movements, noticing how she treated the space not as a possession to be awed by, but as a place to navigate with grace and intelligence. "You handle this place as if it belongs to you," Adam said casually, trying to mask his fascination. Sarah paused, glancing at him, her lips curved in a faint smile. "I handle any place I enter with respect and awareness," she replied, simple words that carried weight. Adam could not hide his curiosity. He had expected fear, submission, or at least awe, yet she showed none of these. She walked to the grand kitchen, her fingers lightly brushing the marble countertops, and then moved to the garden where rare flowers bloomed. Adam followed silently, realizing he was not used to being in the presence of someone who matched his confidence with composure. He decided to test her, to push the boundaries of this bet he had made. "Sarah," he said, stopping near the grand staircase, "this is a life of wealth, power, and influence. Most people would be dazzled, overwhelmed. Are you sure you can handle it?" Sarah turned to him fully, meeting his gaze without fear. "I am sure," she said firmly. "I have handled far more difficult situations in my life than anything money can buy." Adam raised an eyebrow, impressed but still amused. He was used to people being impressed or intimidated by his wealth, but this woman had neither reaction. He could feel the tension building, the kind of suspense that made a game addictive. The next few hours were filled with small, quiet tests. Adam led her through his private art collection, expecting her to react with awe or curiosity at the price tags and fame. Sarah admired the art but with careful, thoughtful eyes, commenting not on value but on technique, history, and emotion. Each observation surprised Adam, who had assumed that she, coming from humble means, would not understand the subtleties of his world. He found himself listening intently, wanting to hear more of her thoughts, to understand her perspective. Lunch was served in the formal dining hall, another chance for Adam to observe her reactions. He watched as she ate calmly, politely, without flinching at the luxury or the extravagant service. She was composed, not distracted, not impressed, and certainly not afraid. Adam's mind raced with questions. Who was this woman? How could she carry herself with such dignity in a world built on wealth and influence, a world where most people bent or faltered? He realized that his initial bet was no longer about winning or showing power, it was about understanding, unraveling, and perhaps even learning from her. As the afternoon sun moved across the mansion, Adam decided to show her another part of his life, the business wing, where decisions affected millions of people. He wanted to see if she would falter under pressure, if she would be awed by numbers, contracts, and power. Sarah walked through the halls quietly, her eyes scanning the documents, the charts, and the bustling assistants. She asked questions, simple but precise, revealing a mind that could analyze, judge, and understand without being intimidated. Adam felt a mix of admiration and unease. This bet, which he had entered lightly, was becoming far more serious. She was not a prize, she was a challenge, a mystery that he could not yet solve. And the suspense of the unknown hung thickly between them, each step, each word, each glance carrying weight and meaning. By evening, Sarah had settled into a quiet room overlooking the gardens. Adam, intrigued and restless, entered the room. "I must admit," he said, sitting across from her, "I did not expect you to be so remarkable. Calm, confident, and far smarter than I imagined." Sarah looked at him evenly, without pride or arrogance. "I do not need to impress," she said softly. "I only need to be true to myself." Adam leaned back, the weight of the day pressing on him. He had expected a game of money and influence, a bet he could win with charm and power, but what he found was a person with strength, courage, and intelligence that challenged everything he thought he knew. The suspense was no longer external, it was internal. He wondered what secrets she held, what past experiences had made her unshakable, and how far her strength would go. That night, as Adam watched the city lights twinkle from his private balcony, he realized that the real game had only just begun. This was no longer about winning a bet, it was about discovering the truths, the mysteries, and the hidden strength of the woman who had accepted his audacious gamble. And as he pondered, he felt a growing curiosity and anticipation, the kind that makes a story irresistible, making the audience, and even himself, eager to see what would happen next. The next morning, sunlight filtered softly into the mansion, painting golden streaks across the polished floors, but the atmosphere inside was far from calm. Tension and curiosity filled every corner. Adam had spent hours observing Sarah, noting her composure, intelligence, and quiet strength, but now he wanted to understand her past, the story behind the woman who could withstand his audacious bet without fear or hesitation. They sat in a sunlit library, the walls lined with towering shelves of books, each one a testament to knowledge, history, and discovery. Adam leaned back in a chair, fixing his gaze on her. "Tell me about yourself," he said, his voice gentle but firm, probing for answers he could not guess. Sarah's eyes flickered for a moment, revealing a shadow of memory, and then she began, her words careful but honest. She spoke of her life as a single mother, the years she had struggled to provide for her child, working multiple jobs and facing constant judgment from society. She told him about the threats she had faced from people who had tried to take advantage of her vulnerability and the challenges she had overcome without losing hope or dignity. Adam listened in silence, fascinated and slightly unsettled. He realized that each word she spoke carried strength, courage, and resilience that no amount of wealth or privilege could create. He had thought he was testing her, measuring her reaction to a game, but it became clear that she had already survived trials far greater than anything he could orchestrate. The suspense in the room grew, thick and unspoken, as Adam tried to imagine what other secrets she might hold. Sarah paused for a moment, her gaze softening, and added, "I have learned to protect myself, to trust only when necessary, and to never allow fear to control my decisions." Adam's pulse quickened. He recognized that her life had forged a spirit unshakable by wealth, power, or intimidation. The contrast between his life of luxury and her life of constant struggle struck him profoundly. He had assumed that his money, influence, and charisma could control any situation, but Sarah had already lived through storms far greater than anything he could buy or command. She smiled faintly, a mysterious curve of her lips, hinting at experiences and knowledge she had yet to reveal. Adam leaned forward, intrigued. "And your child?" he asked cautiously, sensing that this part of her story held a special significance. Sarah's eyes softened even further, her tone tender yet strong. "My child is my priority," she said simply. "Everything I do, every choice I make, is to protect and provide for them. Adam nodded slowly, realizing that her focus and dedication were unlike anything he had ever encountered. He had expected resistance, fear, or hesitation in accepting his bet, but instead, he found a woman whose life had already tested her in ways he could not comprehend. The suspense intensified as he wondered what other aspects of her past were still hidden, what secrets she carried that gave her such calmness in the face of his audacity. As the day progressed, Adam decided to take her on a tour of his private offices and philanthropic projects, expecting to impress or intimidate her with his world of influence. Sarah observed quietly, asking thoughtful questions, her demeanor composed and respectful, yet never awed or submissive. Adam realized that her intelligence, experience, and courage made her a formidable presence, one that challenged his assumptions about control, power, and authority. By evening, they returned to the mansion, the golden light fading to the soft glow of lamps and candles. Adam, still fascinated and slightly unsettled, decided to ask the question that had been growing in his mind all day. "Sarah," he said, his voice measured but curious, "you have faced so much already. How do you remain so strong, so calm, even in situations designed to unnerve or challenge you?" Sarah's smile was small, knowing, and enigmatic. "Strength is not about avoiding fear," she said quietly. "It is about facing it, understanding it, and deciding that it will not control your life. I have learned that lesson well." Adam felt a mixture of admiration and unease. He had assumed his bet, his wealth, and his boldness could command any reaction, but Sarah's words and demeanor revealed a world he had never truly understood. The suspense between them was palpable, an invisible tension that hung in the room, hinting at revelations yet to come. He realized that the audacious bet he had made at the auction was no longer a simple game. It was the beginning of a journey into understanding a person whose life, courage, and intellect could challenge him in ways he had never experienced. The night deepened, and Adam sat quietly in the library, watching Sarah settle into a comfortable chair, a small lamp casting a warm glow over her face. He wondered about the secrets she had not yet revealed, the experiences that shaped her, and the lessons he might learn from her resilience. The suspense of the unknown, of what revelations lay ahead, kept him alert, curious, and unexpectedly humbled. He understood, perhaps for the first time, that his wealth and power could not buy insight into her world or control over her spirit. The story they were beginning to write together promised challenges, surprises, and emotional revelations, and Adam felt the thrilling weight of anticipation, knowing that the next chapters would test him, teach him, and perhaps even change him in ways he could not yet imagine. The next morning, sunlight poured through the mansion's tall windows, but inside, a heavier tension lingered. Adam had spent the night thinking about Sarah, her strength, her composure, and the quiet way she commanded respect without raising her voice. He realized that every bet he had ever made, every gamble he had played, seemed trivial compared to the mystery that surrounded her. Today, he decided it was time to uncover the secret she had hinted at, the revelation that made her confident, unshakable, and calm even in the face of his audacious wager. He led her to a private room, one she had not yet seen, where rare artifacts and personal items from Sarah's past were displayed. "I want to understand you fully," he said, his voice steady but carrying genuine curiosity. Sarah's expression softened slightly, but there was a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. "Some things," she said, "are difficult to reveal, even to someone who seems genuinely interested." Adam smiled, a mix of patience and anticipation in his gaze. "I am willing to wait. But I am curious. I need to know." Sarah took a deep breath, her fingers brushing a small, worn box on a shelf. She opened it slowly, revealing photographs, letters, and small keepsakes. Adam leaned in, noticing a photo of a young child, smiling despite worn clothes and simple surroundings. Sarah explained softly that this was her child, the center of her world, the reason for every struggle, every sleepless night, every sacrifice she had made. Adam nodded, understanding but wanting more. "And the rest?" he asked gently. Sarah hesitated, then spoke in a quiet, steady voice, revealing a story even more remarkable than he had imagined. She had once been part of an underground organization dedicated to helping single mothers and children escape danger, violence, and exploitation. She had faced threats from powerful people, endured deception, and navigated life-or-death situations to protect those she loved. Every experience had honed her courage, intelligence, and resilience. Adam listened in awe, realizing that her calm confidence at the auction, in his mansion, and around him was not arrogance, it was the strength of someone who had survived far greater challenges than money, power, or social games could ever present. The suspense in the room deepened as Adam processed her words. He realized that this bet, this wager, had nothing to do with winning or losing. It was about understanding someone extraordinary, a human being whose life had shaped her into someone both fearless and wise. Sarah continued, describing how she had learned to trust carefully, to rely on her own skills, and to never allow fear to dominate her choices. She spoke of moments where she had stood against threats, outsmarted dangerous individuals, and made impossible decisions to protect her child and others. Adam's respect grew with each revelation, but so did his curiosity and intrigue. He understood now that every reaction she had displayed, from her calm smile at the auction to her measured confidence in his mansion, was rooted in a life of extraordinary experience. The suspense lingered in the room, electric and compelling. Adam realized he was no longer in control of this bet in the way he had imagined. Instead, he was a student, observing a masterful, courageous woman whose secrets were unfolding one layer at a time. He asked, cautiously, "All of this, you've done alone?" Sarah's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "Mostly," she said softly. "I have learned to rely on myself first. Others can help, but survival, courage, and strength come from within." Adam leaned back, a slow smile forming, part admiration, part disbelief, and part thrill. The suspense of the unknown had never felt so personal. The room felt alive with the weight of her story, the tension between revelation and mystery, and the growing connection that neither of them fully understood yet. He realized that the true shock was not in his bet, not in winning or losing, but in the discovery of the depth, intelligence, and courage of the woman before him. Sarah's secret was no secret in the sense of hiding, it was a revelation that changed the stakes entirely. The bet was no longer a game of money or audacity, it had become a story of understanding, respect, and curiosity. Adam felt the suspense tighten, a thrilling, irresistible tension between what he knew, what he thought he controlled, and the profound mystery of her past. He realized that the journey had just begun. The revelation about her extraordinary past shifted everything. It made him question his assumptions, his arrogance, and even his own understanding of strength and courage. And as the day turned into evening, Adam felt the electric pull of anticipation, eager to see what she would reveal next, how she would navigate their growing connection, and what surprises and lessons awaited both of them in the days ahead. Every glance, every word, every pause held suspense, and the audience could feel it too. This was no ordinary story of wealth and bets. It was a story of courage, resilience, and the slow unveiling of secrets that demanded attention, respect, and wonder, making it impossible to look away. The following day, the mansion was quieter than usual, but the tension between Adam and Sarah was stronger than ever. After the revelation of her past, Adam felt a mixture of admiration, awe, and an unexpected nervousness. He had thought himself in control of the bet, of the situation, yet Sarah's calm demeanor and incredible strength made him realize how little he truly understood. He watched her move through the grand halls, organizing small matters, noticing details he had never cared for, and handling them with quiet efficiency. Every gesture, every glance, every word she spoke carried authority and grace, and Adam found himself silently comparing her courage and intelligence to his own arrogance. He decided it was time to test another layer, not of control, but of trust. "Sarah," he said, walking toward her as she studied documents in his office, "you've handled challenges I can hardly imagine, but this is my world, my life. Can you trust me enough to step fully into it?" Sarah looked up at him, her expression calm yet unreadable. "Trust is earned," she replied softly. Adam's smirk was subtle, half amused, half intrigued. "Then let me show you why it might be worth it." He led her to the rooftop terrace, overlooking the city as the sun began to set. The golden light reflected off the buildings, and the wind brushed gently against them, creating a perfect moment of tension. Adam gestured to the view. "This city, these people, my influence, they are all part of my life. But I want to know if you can navigate this world without fear, without hesitation. Can you? Sarah's eyes scanned the horizon, the city lights, the distant streets filled with lives and challenges. Then she turned to him, her gaze unwavering. I am not afraid, she said simply. I will face what comes with clarity and courage, as I always have. Adam was impressed, but he also felt an unexpected pull toward her, a mixture of respect, fascination, and a growing sense of connection. For the first time, he realized that his interest was no longer just about the bet or curiosity. It was personal, emotional, and undeniably intense. The suspense between them grew with each passing moment. Neither spoke for a long time, yet the air was thick with anticipation. Adam finally broke the silence. You amaze me, Sarah. Every time I think I understand you, you surprise me again. Sarah smiled faintly, a mysterious curve of her lips. And I do not yet know all about you either, Adam. Your wealth and power are impressive, but they are not who you are. Adam felt a shiver of excitement. She was challenging him now, not with words, but with the quiet confidence of her presence, her intellect, and her experience. The evening moved forward, filled with subtle tests and gentle revelations. Adam showed her more of his private life, his business challenges, and even personal struggles. Sarah listened, asked questions, and offered insights that surprised him. She was not simply accepting his world, she was understanding it, analyzing it, and responding with wisdom he had not expected. He realized that the suspense of this bet had grown into something deeper, something far more personal. He could not anticipate her next move, her thoughts, or her reactions, and that uncertainty thrilled him. Later, as the city lights shimmered below, Adam decided to push the emotional boundary. Sarah, he said quietly, this bet, this auction, it was supposed to be about me. But now, I feel that it is about both of us, about understanding, about connection. Do you feel it too? Sarah's eyes softened, and for a moment, the formidable armor she carried seemed to relax. Yes, she said softly. There is something here that goes beyond games, wagers, or appearances. Something real, something worth understanding fully. Adam's chest tightened with anticipation, the suspense now emotional, almost tangible. He realized that the story they were creating together was no longer just about a bet or revelation, it was about trust, courage, and the slow building of something neither of them could yet name. They remained on the rooftop long into the night, watching the city, speaking in quiet tones, learning about each other, sharing insights, fears, and small victories. Each conversation deepened the tension, the curiosity, and the connection between them. Adam felt a growing admiration that bordered on fascination, and Sarah recognized a side of him that was vulnerable, intelligent, and surprisingly human beneath the layers of wealth and arrogance. The suspense of what would come next, the emotional revelations, the personal challenges, and the choices they would make hung in the air like an electric charge. It was irresistible, compelling, and completely consuming, making it impossible to look away or predict what the next moment would hold. The night ended, but the tension remained, promising an explosive, heartfelt, and unforgettable conclusion that would redefine the bet, their lives, and the connection between them forever.